Welcome to Blake and Shan's Book Club. I'm Blake.
And I'm Shan.
And this is the book,
Ta-da!
Slow Gods by Claire North. Shan read this book, rated it 5 stars.
I did indeed, and it's my favourite book of the year so far.
So she said, Blake, you got to read this book, and I did not rate it 5 stars, I only rated it 4.5.
Which was outrageous considering all of the other books he has given 5 stars to and didn't particularly enjoy. So I'm a little bit salty.
A little bit salty, indeed.
Just a little bit.
So what we thought we'd do is we'd have a chat about this book, why you liked it so much, why I liked it a lot but slightly less, and then we'll see what we think at the end. Yeah. Probably no change in opinion.
But if you haven't read it, you should.
Yeah, if you haven't read it, stop watching right now because we're about to spoil the whole thing.
Yeah, and probably not do the book justice either.
Yep.
But
yep.
We'll try our best.
Try our best. So, high-level plot summary. Basically, there's this kind of like pan-galactic civilization where you have these multiple different kind of cultural groups. You've got the Shan, which is kind of like a hyper-capitalist, almost religious, dystopian kind of vibe. You've got the She, who are kind of just like a bit chill. You've got
the main powerhouses.
Yeah, but they're just like there's not that much to them. They're just kind of chill and they don't really. You've got the Quan, which are like AI sentiences. You get introduced later on in the book to the Consensus, which is basically just like a hive mind, which is kind of cool. And then you have the Ajumir people.
The main ones.
And the main thrust of the book is that this like kind of hyper intelligent, like maybe a Quan, I guess, the Slow, which is like some like mega supercomputer thing, rocks up and is like, yo, there's a couple of twin stars that are gonna go boom and go whoosh, and everyone's gonna die if you don't leave in like 100 years.
Yeah, gives a big time.
Yeah, like 110-year warning. Those two things are going to blow up, and you guys are all going to get like eradicated from the like radiation of the explosion. So you should probably leave. The Shan basically decide to not do anything about it, and then there's some kind of like rebellion, which our protagonist Moore gets caught up in, leading to them eventually being put in what's called a pilot's chair. Pilots in this universe are like a biological human-to-computer interface which allows the spaceships to travel through the dark, which is this kind of like outside the universe sort of fantastical space, which basically allows them to do faster than light travel. But when you're a pilot, you basically go insane. You can only be a pilot a couple of times.
So there is quite a high cost to this travel.
Yeah, from the Shan's perspective, they're like, sweet as, we'll just make prisoners do it and burn through them as quickly as we can because they're
We've got plenty of them.
Yep. And so basically, Moore gets put into a pilot chair, gets sent through, and then for whatever reason, circumstances transpire, they end up dead, but coming back to life, changed as a creature of the dark.
Yeah.
So the story sort of follows their kind of progression through that as the supernova approaches and as kind of the civilizations around the supernova event deal with the ramifications of the supernova. Which I think is not actually too bad of a spoiler-free summary.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Not too bad.
So, basically the main kind of like through line is that Moore
is the like constant, and because he's been changed by the dark. He lives to see the supernovas hit and then the kind of repercussions of that as well. So the book kind of has like 3 acts.
3 main acts.
Yeah.
The first act, that's really short one, which is like, how did Moore end up in this position?
Setting the scene, kind of the context of the Shan and kind of where his like ideals and why he views things a certain way is kind of shaped for you.
The second act, which I reckon is like 40% of the book.
Yeah,
is the like
the countdown.
Countdown.
Yeah, it's kind of exploring like, hey, we've been given this timeline. Some of the planets like that are controlled by the Shan just decide to do nothing because it's not worth the investment to get these people off planet.
Basically, what they decided is that
we'll just steal another planet
to just nick off with another planet.
So that's kind of what the Shan's doing in the background, and they're quite a little bit more dodgy and have quite a lot of...
Well, they're shutting down on their planets all discussion of the fact that this is happening. They're basically like, no, fake
hiding
news.
all of the news, and then like setting themselves up to kind of like if there are retaliations, because they control quite a bit of other planets in the system. So it's quite interesting from that perspective. And then the story kind of follows one main planet, which is...
I can't remember which specific planet it is, but it's part of the Ajumir system, which is one of the planets where like the supernova is going to destroy it first.
Yeah. And they've decided to get as many people off as they possibly can.
So they're doing like a lotto system where you get like a number and then you...
Just wait for your number to be drawn and then off you go in the ship.
Yeah. And so Moore ends up... Because Moore has become like a changed creature of the dark, the whole like pilot stuff doesn't seem to affect them as much.
Well, he's already died, so he can't really die again.
Well, he sort of can.
But he always comes back so far in the book.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, he ends up being the pilot for these deliveries to Ajumir, and he does a lot of stuff in Ajumir and ends up meeting somebody who I'm going to call Gebre. How did you pronounce that?
Geb.
Gebre. Gebre.
A G, and then...
And then just like some...
Yep.
Gebre, who's an Ajumiri kind of like anthropologist, really passionate about like...
History
and society.
And obviously their main goal is with this impending supernova is to preserve as much of their rich history and culture as they can, and kind of deciding what gets saved and what doesn't and what is important.
And I guess that whole kind of second arc is the exploration of that in conversation between Moore and Gebre, who fall in love.
And I think quite interesting because Moore is quite passive about what is happening. He feels like there's no stopping this. Like, why are you like with your full heart trying to save things that it's not worth saving? Like, and where Gebre is like, everything's worth saving. Everything has a meaning. That's what I've been put here to do. So I felt they were kind of like different perspectives on what was actually happening to the people.
I found it different. So I thought that Gebre's whole thing was, even if I can't be saved, my culture and my people will live on.
Yeah.
And Moore just didn't understand it. Like, it wasn't like, why are you bothering saving stuff? But it was like, I don't understand why you don't want to save your own life. Like, how are you able to be so calm in the face of impending doom?
Well, I think it could
How
be
are you
both.
able to be so self-sacrificing?
Yeah. But also, I guess that kind of ties into like, why are you saving that, rather than like, is that more important than the people? Because obviously it's taking up space and the ships that are offloading people as well.
I don't think that there was any discussion between Moore of that. I don't think Moore thought about that. I think you're reading
I
into
thought about
that.
it then, but I thought that was quite a, whatever you get from that, quite a interesting dynamic and a kind of like...
Yeah, interesting. Maybe this is why you rated it 5 stars.
I thought about it a
because
bit more.
You've got these extra little layers.
I went on a side quest.
Yeah.
Made up a plot of my own.
So that whole second bit, second act is all about that, their unfolding relationship, which is kind of like characterized predominantly by the fact that, like, for a lot of Ajumiri, they're like, well, we were born knowing when we were going to die, because it's like, you know, they've got the 100-year warning. So they know when the planet's going to get zipped.
Yeah, annihilated. Yeah.
Annihilated. And so, you know, if they're not getting called up in the lotto system, they know that they're going to die. And basically, Gebre never gets caught up in the lotto system and is basically just chill about it. They're just like, Ted's just like, yeah, it's chill. And then eventually what happens is Moore gets called back to Ajumir right before the supernova, because Gebre has found a black ship operating device. And as I say that, I realise we haven't mentioned the black ships, which are important to mention.
It's what the
like
Shan use to control all of these other planets, because they have these like missiles that you can't detect. So that's how they're kind of controlling the planets.
They basically have planet busters pointed at all of the
big nukes. Space nukes.
Basically space nukes.
Yeah.
And they basically, if you mess with us, we're going to nuke all your stuff.
Yeah.
And so Geber's has somehow found a black ship interface, which basically means that more can kind of communicate with that network to try to figure out where all the black ships are. Because basically everybody else that's not Shine has beef with the Shine. They don't like them. They don't like what they're up to.
Well, obviously because they've got the nukes and
also they're like kind of
not taking any kind of refugees from these planets,
or trying to save however many billions of people live on their current planets.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like beef with them, and they're like, oh, we found this like Typhon class black ship interface. We'll be able to find out where they are, and then we can like stop them. And then the third act is all about them like having a big confrontation and trying to stop them and all that kind of stuff, which basically plays out like Moore manages to get the Typhon interface off the planet at the cost of Geber's life.
Big Sag
goes amongst the little guys and starts being like, where are you guys? Where are you? Hey, you're okay. Everybody's all right. Where are you though? And like trying to comfort, because everyone in the black ship stuff is obviously they're in the dark, so they're going crazy all the time.
Yeah.
And then they have like a big confrontation. You get introduced to Theolodius or whatever his name is, the like
reintroduced
main bad dude from the Shine, and he's kind of like, I'm a big dude and whatever. And you hear about like all the stuff that like the way that they exhibit status. There's a big confrontation. The consensus guys come in and they try to like help navigate towards defeating the Shine, and eventually, and this is the reason that I gave this book 4.5 stars. Eventually, the slow returns, picks up more, and is basically like, everything was part of some calculations that I did. So it's all part of like my plan. Everything that happened to you, the interface, all this other stuff was all calculated so that you could defeat the Shine.
I calculated this to be the path of like less harm.
Yeah, Stephen Strange and Avengers Endgame Infinity War, the final one. Where it's like there's only one possibility that works or whatever. Does that whole thing, and it's like now you have to continue through with this, and then they basically end up defeating the Shine by getting into the black ships and cutting off all the connections so the Shine
it was mainly the consensus at the end, because since they were hive minds and they couldn't quite pinpoint who was in the hive mind, even though
they had like a whole bunch of like agents and stuff, and basically they took away the black ships, and then they were like, everybody like, you can now rebel against the Shine, and everyone started like fighting them and all this other kind of stuff. And so it was a really cool book. It had all of the like really interesting like exploration of like the technology and the cultures, which I thought was really cool. But the bit that turned me off was the Deus Ex Machina. The literal Deus Ex Machina.
Doesn't help, like, spoiler, but like when the slow talks, I'm not an influencer, I don't know if that's in focus. It's all in capitals.
It's all in capitals, which is actually
really hard to read.
It turns out quite hard to read.
Yeah.
That wasn't the main problem that I had. The main problem that I had was this idea that everything was preordained, and so all of the sacrifice and all of the like cultural elements were just eradicated. And then the whole like point was like, because you now like exist outside of time because of your like weird connection with the dark, you're probably going to be a god in the future. And so like I'm helping you learn how to be a god, or something as close to a god as there can be. And I felt like it took a lot of the humanity away from the story. That was my problem. I felt like this, as a science fiction or speculative fiction novel, was more about, rather than like space and technology, it was more about people and culture.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you have this technological thing which just removes all the human element from it.
Well,
and that's what I found disappointing.
I think it was in contrast of like the Slow was talking about, like, I love my people, this is the way that I could save them, but like never really fully understood the individual struggles. And I think that kind of has a parallel, you could say, to religion in some way as well, that like there's quite a lot of people in their faith that believe everything is done for a reason, and I think that's kind of tying into that, whereas like you have that kind of disconnect between like what they're saying and how they're viewing it versus the people going through it. So to me, that it still was quite like a tale of like humanity and how even though your path like
is preordained,
what can you do to like either accept that, like G did, or Gibray did. Tay, was it Tay? Tay did, or those who like in their planet as well was like, well, I'm gonna die. Let me kill, like take this drink so I prematurely die.
Yeah, so I don't have to get like zapped by solar radiation.
Deciding that like I don't have any power in this situation. So I think it kind of ties that all together, and I liked the fact that at the time that Moore talked to the slow god, you could still kind of at that time feel that Moore had a little bit of his humanity in him because of his experiences through this. Like he couldn't quite perceive how the slow didn't necessarily care about the individual struggles or didn't try and do anything else outside of just being like, hey,
yeah, I guess
you've got 150 years or whatever. I
feel like that's a really nice interpretation, but I just don't feel like that was in the text.
Well,
I feel like that's the limiting factor, right? Like it was really, like, again, 4.5 stars. So it's really good. It does all of the stuff about setting up you to have these kinds of thoughts, but I just felt like the execution of actually...
Oh, yeah, I didn't enjoy, like, reading it and, like, having that played out, but then I decided to obviously...
Yeah, because I don't agree that Moore's like, oh, the human side, you've forgotten about it. Because I think the slow thinks about the human side. The slow has tried its best to preserve, and what it's done is it's calculated the thing that preserved the most life. And Moore's realization in that moment is you can't win without making some sacrifice. There isn't an answer. Like, the slow has done all of the work. It's done all the mathematics or whatever it does with its magical AI powers. And it has concluded that this is the best way forward and that it had to do all of the things that it had to do in order to achieve this outcome. But that outcome had to come at some cost. And there's this like optimistic human element of wanting to avoid sacrificing anything. But like the slow is basically like, nah, you can't avoid collateral damage in life. Which, I did actually like. I just didn't like the whole everything is preordained, your path has been laid out before you, because I felt like it took away from what the text was giving me about the theme of making your own decisions, which is where the thing about they get to take the like magical potion, the people who decided that they wanted to like try to fight to get off the planet, and the people who decided that they just were going to accept to just accept what was happening to them. The people who were rebelling on the Shine worlds, the people who were, trying to be shiny. I feel like those themes are diluted significantly by the idea that the slow had done all this maths to figure out that this was all going to happen. But maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
Such a small part of the book, though. Like that little...
Yeah, I guess maybe the difference in terms of our interpretation of this is that, for me, it's a small thing which has wide ramifications, and for you, you're just like, I'm just going to ignore that because I don't like it, so I'm just going to think about the rest of the book, which I did like.
But like it draws parallel with the Theodore kind of doing the same.
Theodore Lobios,
trying to explain his actions at the end of the book.
Now that I really loved. I really loved the ending of this, massive spoiler, which is Theodore Lobios, or whatever his name is.
I don't think it is Theodore.
I think it's Theolonius.
Oh yeah, I think it was.
Theolonius.
Well, in my head it was Theodore.
We got there. I'm pretty sure it's Theolonius.
Okay.
Theo, who's like the main dude from The Shine, who's like a mega jerk, basically comes at the very end of the book, like escapes the like defeat of The Shine, and comes to see Moore, and basically is like, you know, we were like kind of the mortal enemies of each other. You're going to have to like fight me and kill me. And Moore decides to just straight up ignore him.
Yeah.
He's just like, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm going to like attack you or whatever. He's like, it's not going to work.
Because like throughout the novel and Moore's lifetime, he has been made out to be a monster because he has, when he kind of forgets his humanity,
he gets dysregulated.
And he can't. He doesn't mean to, but he does kill a bunch of people at certain points.
Yeah.
Throughout the book. And I also really enjoyed it about the narration because it's not explicitly said at any point. He's just like, and then I got curious. Or like not,
it's curious. It's curious. I was curious about what this does, and so I pulled the heart out of the person to look at it better. It's quite creepy.
Oh, I didn't find it creepy.
You didn't find it creepy when he was like examining everyone's nerves and blood and
I was like, yes,
pulling all
that's
their
my
bits and
Moore.
pieces out?
Have a look. What are you finding?
I guess it helps that like in most of those situations they were kind of like established villains that he was ripping to shreds.
Yeah, and then when it wasn't, it was probably more glossed over if he actually did kill them or not.
Yeah.
But I also like in those scenes, like I guess it is a little bit repeatable and dramatic because the way he kind of sometimes finishes each paragraph is like, I am of the darkness.
Yeah.
Or like, I am a monster. And it kind of, to me, because he's the main narrator and it is him actually actively telling a story, is him trying to remember that he actually is a monster to some degree as well.
I think it's just him trying to process like what he has become.
Yeah, but like trying to remember that.
Because his whole thing is that he needs to remember his humanity.
Yeah.
He can't let go and become dysregulated because that's when he has the characteristics of a monster and like pulls people apart.
But I quite like the fact that he always came back to it. He's like, I have to ensure this comes across.
But I think the whole ending of the book is about him coming to terms with the fact that he's not actually a monster. That he still has agency and control over his own self.
Yeah, and I think that was probably a large part of the book where he didn't feel that way, like especially when he was down on the Shine planet, extremely controlled by like the
whole
ecosystem that he's in. So they kind of like, you're brought up with no agency, so you don't really think to have agency. And he kind of explores, obviously, when he is on that planet, that when other people have agency, that it is something you could particularly do. And then obviously the conversation with the slow, he's like, well, I'm going to have to at some point potentially be making larger decisions, and I do have sway because of who I am and what I've become. Yeah. And that like my actions are going to have repercussions whether I do something or whether I don't do something. Yeah.
And see, that is part of what I liked about it. And I think also it finishes without giving you there's no hard ending. It's just like, and then he tells that dude, do whatever you want. And then that dude sort of just like, it just sort of ends. It's like, he's realized that he can rise above and
also I would imagine, and I might be misremembering this, but in The Shine, like, Theodosius, I think his name is.
Theodosius, that's
Theodosius.
Right.
Obviously, he's like the shiniest male in their kind of hierarchy, and I think he wanted like an ending
the glorious ending,
fit for somebody of his status, and like who other than the monster he created, because basically he's the guy that picked Moore to be a pilot, and Moore has become such a huge character or like legend in this ecosystem that he's like, what way to like end my life going out in a blaze of like being killed by this monster, and to have that stripped away from him.
See, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. So, a couple of other things maybe that we could talk about with this book. Thing number one, the negative comments on Reddit brought this up a lot.
Yeah, I was like, I love this book so much. I wonder what Reddit has to say, which I don't use Reddit. I don't know why I decided to have a look. Yeah.
The pronouns. So there are a ton of different genders that are explored within this novel.
Yep.
It's worth noting that Claire North is themselves, I believe, non-binary.
I believe so.
They them pronouns.
Yes.
And there are a ton of different pronouns that get used within the novel. So you have obviously the standard he, him, but in the Shine they have the shinier he and him, which I thought was he and him, and then she, her, and she and her, which because they have an accent over the thing, it's extra shiny. Then in the Quan and the Slow, they use the pronoun QE, which is like key in my head, which is because they were like, we can't just call them it because there's something beyond an itness. So they have this like key, which is like, I guess a gender neutral pronoun that they've got. And then the Gebre is Titur, and then there's a few other ones around the Ajumeri population, because Ajumeri have like a massive changeability in their gender. Their gender expression is more to do with
stages in life,
like life experiences, and like who they are as a person at that particular time. And they're called things like, you know, one who has walked through the gate and experienced the forest or something. And then that gender gets the pronoun of Titur, which is much shorter than one who has walked through the gate and experienced the forest or whatever it was. Which I think, despite the denizens of Reddit being negative about it, was actually like a really cool example of what was my favorite component of the book, which was the idea of intergalactic societies and the impact that has on culture.
Yeah, culture and like individualism.
And like, so you have all these societies that, like, normally when you read a science fiction novel that's set in space, there's like a pan culture.
Or they just don't explicitly
Or they don't talk about culture at all. You know, like Star Trek, it's just like a utopia and they don't have any money anymore. And then there's like these little planets that have like, you know, this really explored different sociologies within the domains. And the pronouns are such an intrinsic part of that, you know, that I think, although it was kind of hard to read them, and again, no pronunciation guide at the back of the book, so...
And I think it's also because you were getting told, like, their planet, their race, their name, their genders. Like, it did take a few minutes, but, like, the way that the book's written, it was easy to, like, keep track of it once you got going.
Once you got going, you were, like, there, and, you know, it's like... I don't think it's something that is worth criticising, and I think that actually, considering, you know, the fact that we are in a time when, you know, discussions around pronouns are pertinent, it's not an unreasonable extrapolation of society. You know, and we go to space and we go to all these weird planets, and like a whole bunch of stuff happens to us, and we go, oh, maybe we should have some better like ways of expressing ourselves.
But also, like, in space, of course, there's going to be different...
Yeah. Space. The final frontier.
Races and different ways of...
Well, those are all humans.
And, like, languages.
Those are all, like... Well, apart from the Quan. Ajumeri and the Shine and the She are all humans.
Cloud ones as well.
There were some non-human aliens. The little fish guys.
Yeah.
But they're mostly humanoid.
I didn't really think.
So that's the cultural aspect. The science fiction itself. What did you think about the, like... Because like, often in science fiction, the technology is explained. But here, like, there's the mystery of what is the dark that, you know, in another science fiction novel you would get an answer, or that would be kind of prominent in a sequel. But this, like Claire North's other works, I think is going to be a standalone novel. We're never going to find out what the deal is with the dark. It's just left open to your interpretation, which I think is kind of not common in sci-fi.
Yeah, but I also kind of, it's like classic human nature in a way to like abuse and like manipulate something that you don't fully understand. It's like, it works for me. That's all I care
It's got some
about.
significant side effects, but let's just wash over those.
But yeah, like at the beginning, that was something I was like, oh, can't wait to figure
find
out what the darkness is. And then like at each point that he mentions it and he's like calls out to the dark and nothing answers back, I kind of got the sense, I was like, oh, it's not going to be explained, and / maybe whatever would have answered is in him, was kind of my interpretation. So I just assumed that we probably wouldn't get an answer.
I was just like, they're not going to explain what this is.
But I like that.
Oh well. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I don't understand most of like the real world physics stuff that's going on, so like how can I be expected to understand this magical darkness?
But like I think outside of that, like the living spaceships were like kind of an interesting take. Like, well, at least the spaceship that Moore kind of piloted throughout his story. It went through seasons, which was kind of cool.
Yeah. Or which again, you know, just I think actually that's another element that I really liked is the assumption that, you know, normally the assumption is that you have to explain everything and come with justifications for it. Like hard science fiction. This is very soft science fiction where it's just like, yeah, the ship grows and like it's now spring and it's gone back in the water to drink. You're like, what the heck? It's a spaceship. How does this work? No explanation of that. So I think it's more about like giving you a vibe rather than about like explaining things to you.
How different cultures or like have made their own technology and kind of embedded their beliefs into it as well.
Yeah, which again I think speaks to that kind of cultural element of the book.
And I don't know if we really touched on it, but like another kind of major theme is obviously all of the people that are having to leave these planets and be
the diaspora,
refugees and like being taken away from their home planet, and like what does their culture mean to them, and then like what does like once they've started like living in that other planet,
what impact does that other planet have on diminishing their culture, or what impact do they have on bringing their culture to this other system,
especially with the likes of the
Ajumeri,
where their culture is so heavily tied in like actual locations or rituals to understand who they are as people, and then obviously you can't do that on other planets, so it's like how do you pass that down, or how do you shift it so like the main themes of that culture is still alive, because even though Gebre was trying their best to preserve, how much did they actually preserve?
How much gets preserved of any society and culture?
Yeah, and I thought
into the future.
That was
how much does it matter to preserve? I think the ending of the novel, again, because there's a specific Ajumeri character, because of their love for Gebre, basically gets like real deep into Ajumeri stuff, and sort of there's an Ajumeri character who's like a refugee on one of the like space stations that they end up on, and at the end of the novel they are kind of like reconnecting with their Ajumeri like heritage and expressing it in a more meaningful way, which I think is like it's an interesting one in general for like in our, if you apply that to our current monolithic culture of the planet Earth, where, you know, we have much more access to each other than we ever have before, and so therefore culture is continually getting diluted. You know, you're seeing these really strong movements for the preservation of culture within these societies that existed in the past that are now getting diluted by this kind of monolithic
and also
society.
on the flip side, the acceptance of how that culture has changed, because a lot of the elders were like, oh, I don't know if I necessarily agree with the way that you're going about this, but I think that was also like
this transition of like a melding of cultures but still having an appreciation for your own historical background, I think is like a really relevant thing. I think a lot of the themes in this book are really relevant to the current world that we live in the real life, which I think is probably why you liked it as much as you did, because you could brush past the Deus Ex Machina because you were like, well, it's sort of like the theme of not being able to control your destiny is not that unreasonable, which now makes me think
maybe it should be 5 stars.
Yeah.
5 stars.
Well,
did I convince you in the end?
You've convinced me in the end that actually maybe is a very good point about how relevant the book is for the moment. As Adrian Tchaikovsky said, it's astonishing and thought-provoking.
I think he said a little bit more on the back.
And above all, touching. Story of found meaning and lost humanity, which is a very good good description.
Sum it up is what we should have said.
Adrian Tchaikovsky apparently knows what he's on about.
Megan O'Keefe says achingly human, which I agree with.
Yeah, I think that it's the cultural side of the book which is the strongest component, and I think that like it's an experience of a novel that really gives you a lot of space to reflect and think about your own interpretations, which we have been doing for the last 40 minutes.
Yeah.
All right,
I was like, I had more thoughts, but I was like, no, I'll keep them in my little head. That's fine. I'm done.
You're done sharing those thoughts. I think, like any good book, one can sit and reflect with it for many moons after one has finished reading it. What a profound statement I've just made. Inspired by Slow Gods.
Astonishingly
thought-provoking. What a statement. Highly recommend this book.
I hope you read it before getting to the end of the video. Even
if you haven't read it, I don't think we did it justice in our explanations of it. I think you probably could still read it.
Yeah.
If you haven't.
Oh, yeah, there's so much that's like kind of like you can go down little rabbit holes.
Holes. And like the way that things are phrased and all sorts of other stuff like that is impossible to do justice to other than by reading the book. Yeah. So if you haven't read it and you've watched all the way to the end of this video, I think the next thing for you to do is go and read Slow Gods. And we will catch you on the next episode of Blake and Shan Book Club.
Yeah, I think that's what we're called.
I can't remember. Bye!
See ya.